Hello human beings, PowerGamer here. This game right here is pretty awesome, but sadly I was born with a stick up my butt, so I must hate it. Why can't you be more like your brother?
Super Smash Bros Brawl, one of the most beloved disappointments known to man. This is easily the most divisive entry in the Smash Bros series, but the reason for that isn't because of it varying in quality, more so what people were looking for in a Smash game. I think it's safe to say this was one of, if not the most anticipated game ever made at the time of its release. Melee was a juggernaut when it came out, and that popularity only continued to grow with time, so people could only imagine what would come next for the series. The game was first announced at E3 2005, when the late great Satoru Iwata announced it was soon to be in development. However, the creator of the series, Masahiro Sakurai, was surprised to hear this, since at this point he had left HAL Laboratory 2 years prior. The following day, Iwata contacted Sakurai to direct this game again, and he agreed. It was officially unveiled at E3 2006 with an absolutely fantastic trailer. We see the old characters transition from their Melee to Brawl models, a great showcase of new and returning characters, so many new modes, and it all ends with the reveal of a character from a game that wasn't published by Nintendo. Needless to say, everyone was super excited for this game, and that hype only continued to grow with time. This was the game that cemented Super Smash Bros. As an event in the video game industry, since it began generating all sorts of buzz about which characters were going to show up. The primary source of this game's hype was the Smash Bros Dojo, a website that revealed a new piece of information every single day, and somehow it is still up. Now, I don't know what this experience was like personally, since I didn't even know Smash existed at the time, but I can imagine it ranged from,
oh, that looks kinda cool,
to... Instead of HAL, Brawl was developed by Sakurai's own team, Sora LDT, with assistance from several other developers including Game Arts, Monolith Soft, and Payon. The game ended up going through a lot of issues and setbacks during development. It was originally going to be released in December 2007, but it was delayed several times. But when Super Smash Bros. Brawl finally released on January 31st, 2008 in Japan, March 9th in North America, June 26th in Australia, and June 27th in Europe, it exploded. In the US alone, it sold over 800,000 copies on launch day and over 1 million in a single week, becoming the fastest selling game in the history of North America. It ended up selling a grand total of over 13 million copies, making it the 8th best selling Wii game ever. And remember, the Wii was a pretty frickin' popular console, so the game sold a lot of copies. But as for the reception, it was a bit weird. Most critics and general players loved the game, and it was the introduction to the series for a lot of people, but many die-hard Smash fans were really disappointed after how long of a gap there was between this and the game they believed to be the second coming of Christ.
Remember how I said Melee was the most popular entry in the series? Well, that's mainly in terms of the competitive scene, and a lot of people found Brawl to be really lacking in that department. Because of that, it has caused a massive amount of drama, since Melee stands are not shy about showing their disdain for this game. Saying you prefer anything in Brawl to Melee can cause a massive uproar, and will destroy your reputation faster than going to Bass Pro Shop dressed as a banana. Now, personally speaking, I've never played this game before. My only knowledge of it for a while was seeing the box art and some catalogs when my brother and I were making our Christmas list as a kid, and even then, I had no idea what it was. My first real exposure to the Smash Bros. Series was watching some people play Smash 4 on YouTube. Then I tried out Melee at my school's gaming club, and I finally got Ultimate on launch day. But there are some things in this game that were not brought back for later entries in the series, so I'm excited to see what they're like. Although, quick side note, why the hell is this game rated T for teen? Like, seriously, I know Melee was too, but at least back then, E10 Plus wasn't a thing. What's this game's excuse? Whatever. Let's just actually try it out. Well, making me go partially deaf is a good start.
Like the previous two games, we get an awesome opening cutscene showcasing all the characters. Thing is, this wasn't made specifically to be an intro, since all of the clips are reused from in-game cutscenes, which isn't a huge deal, but it is noticeable. Overall, I still prefer Melee's intro, but the one thing this has over that one is the song. This is one of the most iconic songs in all of gaming, and it is easily the best original piece to come from Smash at the time, which isn't too surprising when you find out it was composed by frickin' Nobuyo Uematsu. That man is a legend. But they don't scream the title when it's over anymore, so this game is already on thin ice. Like before, we can hop into a multiplayer match or check out the single player, so classic mode, here we come. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say I'm not a huge fan of this game's art style. This is one of the most frequently criticized things about the game, and it's not hard to see why. Nintendo games are known for being super vibrant and colorful, yet this one looks really washed out and muted. I mean, I know why. The Wii and GameCube were pretty similar power-wise, so to make it look more detailed, they decided to make it look more realistic. But I don't think it really works. Seeing Kirby the color of a piece of dried up gum and Mario's overalls have a more realistic texture just doesn't do it for me. The game looks fine. it does the job, but it is kinda dull. Thankfully, the soundtrack is still fantastic. It's bigger than both of the previous games, and the original and pre-existing songs sound great. And I think you all know how Smash Bros works. You got basic and special attacks from hitting the A and B buttons, combined with pushing the joystick. Taking damage causes your percentage meter to fill up, and when you go flying off the stage, you lose a life. Whoever knocks out the other player's lives first wins. Melee pretty much perfected the basic formula of Smash Bros, so this game doesn't change that much, but it still adds quite a few things. Once again, the game is hugely expanded on the character roster. All of the characters from the original are back, and most of the ones from Melee return, but this was the first game in the series to cut characters. Dr. Mario, Young Link, Pichu, Mewtwo, and Roy have been removed, and 4 of those were clone characters, so it's not a huge deal, but losing Mewtwo does kinda sting a bit. Thankfully, the new characters are enough to make up for it. Starting out, we have the original 8 from Smash 64, plus Peach, Bowser, Sheik/Zelda, and the Ice Climbers. And it's worth noting that Link and Zelda have been changed from their Ocarina of Time designs to their Twilight Princess design, since that was the newest game at the time. Ganondorf is relatively unchanged, though. The other returning characters you need to unlock again. For new characters, you start out with Wario from Mario, gotta have at least one new Mario character, Diddy Kong from Donkey Kong, a pretty solid addition, King Dedede and Meta Knight from Kirby, glad to see more representation from that series, Ike from Fire Emblem, the beginning of the end, Lucas from Mother 3, Earthbound sequel that still can't get through immigration, Pitch from Kid Icarus, a series that had 2 entries at this point and only got a 3rd because of this game, Olimar from Pikmin, who is not proportionally accurate at all, and the coolest one of all, Pokemon Trainer, which much like Zelda cycles between 3 different characters, Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard. Plus Samus can transform into Zero Suit Samus, which gives her a different moveset, but instead of pushing down B in battle, you have to hold the shoulder buttons on the select screen, which is just dumb. New unlockable characters include Toon Link from Zelda, essentially serving as the replacement for Young Link, only this time it's the Wind Waker version, Wolf from Star Fox, Lucario from Pokemon, Rob, that old NES accessory, and easily the biggest 2 of all, the first third-party characters in Super Smash Bros. History. Snake from Metal Gear Solid, which is an odd choice, but still a cool one, and of course, Sonic from Sonic the Hedgehog. This was game-changing. Being able to officially see Mario and Sonic in the same game together was insane. Or it would have been if this didn't come out a few months earlier.
But overall, the character roster was a huge step up from Melee. We got plenty of new series added, as well as some old series getting more representation, and everyone feels like they deserve to be here. Plus, adding in third-party characters completely opened the door for who could be a Smash Bros. Character.
We have a lot more variety in terms of movesets, too, since the only new clone characters are Lucas with Ness and Wolf with Fox and Falco, and even then they aren't direct clones, since they have some abilities that are different. And you'll get a great feel for them in the new Classic mode. Once again, you're placed in a string of matches and fight characters to earn points based on how you do. However, the method of who you fight is basically the inverse of Melee. Last time, the type of matches were the same, but the characters were random every time. Here, you generally fight the same few characters, but how you fight them is different. Sometimes it's a one-on-one, sometimes they're giant, sometimes it's a team fight, sometimes they're metal, and sometimes it's an army. And once again, you get a minigame where you shoot the credits, only it isn't actually the credits, it's just a character/character items you've unlocked. Most of the characters in each stage fall into the same series. First, you fight Zelda characters, then Donkey Kong and Yoshi, then Pokemon, then Earthbound and Fire Emblem, then Break the Targets, which is now called Target Smash, then Kirby, then Metroid and Pikmin, then Star Fox and F-Zero, Mario, most of the one-off characters, Wario, Snake, or Sonic, another Target Smash, then 3 random characters in the end, and like before, you finish it with a fight against a Master Hand. A decent mode overall, but I think I prefer how Melee did it. The type of characters you fought was always the same, but the characters changed every time, which helped it feel a bit more different with each run. Here, since there's only 3 or 4 possible characters to fight on each stage, you're gonna be fighting the same ones a lot. And since there aren't as many types of fights you can do, there isn't as much variety. The structure is different, I will give it that, but I think it's a step down from before since it ends up being even more repetitive than in Melee. But at the very least, it's a step up from the original Smash, except for the mini-games. Like I said, you only have Target Smash, and remember how in the last 2 games each character had their own dedicated stage? Well, now it's the same for everybody, and the only thing that affects it is your difficulty selection. There's only 5 different stages: easy, normal, hard, very hard, and intense. This is just stupid. Honestly, the most amusing thing about Classic Mode is how many times the opponents end up killing themselves. Hell, sometimes you don't even have to hit them once.
But I will give credit to Brawl that the single-player modes at least let you use the freaking right stick on the controller, so that alone makes these an overall better experience than the single-player parts of Melee.
Well, that actually kind of depends on what controller you're using. Despite being a Wii game, you can use a GameCube controller, which is really nice, and there's also the classic controller, which isn't as ideal, but it still works. Whatever you do, though, don't use the Wii Remote. Because it doesn't have as many buttons and only one joystick, the control scheme is just really finicky and annoying. To do smash attacks, you either do the jam and button like in the first game, or shake the Wii Remote in the corresponding direction, button, which is ridiculous. And if you use the Wii remote without the nunchuck, you have to use the 1 and 2 buttons. Yeah, don't do this, just use the GameCube or Classic controller. You can also do taunts by hitting the D-pad, but that doesn't really affect anything. Much like Melee, we have event matches, and they're basically the same thing as before. You're given a preset challenge, which can range from killing enemies to using a certain item to just reaching the end of a mini-stage. Sometimes you can pick the character, other times you can't. These are definitely less prominent than in the last game, since there's a smaller amount of them, although there are some you can do in co-op, and there's only 3 that actually unlock anything. So needless to say, I spent a fraction of the time I spend on Melee's event matches on these. And you even get a difficulty selection, which let me tell you, I would have really appreciated for those last 3. Like before, we have a few different processes of unlocking characters. You can just play a bunch of versus matches, or you can meet some strange criteria. You unlock Marth by beating Classic Mode once, Luigi for beating it without continuing, Captain Falcon for beating it under 12 minutes on normal difficulty, Ganondorf for beating it on hard with Link or Zelda, Lucario for beating all the target stages with 1 character, Ness for reflecting 12 projectiles, and other stuff like that. And thankfully none of these are as weird as Luigi or Mewtwo from last time.
However, there is a third and arguably more efficient way to unlock all the characters, and that's by going through the most iconic aspect of Super Smash Bros Brawl: the Subspace Emissary.
This serves as an enhanced version of Adventure Mode from Melee, the big difference being that that was just a handful of short stages and fights that only lasted about 20 minutes. This is an entire campaign that lasts for several hours. You're placed in a series of side-scrolling stages where you run around fighting enemies. Sprinkled throughout each one are some cutscenes that showcase all of the characters you're playing as or fighting against that ties them together. And this is easily the highlight of this mode. Actually seeing these characters interact with each other is really charming. Granted, none of them speak, but you do get to see a lot of their personality shine, and some of them can be pretty funny. The levels themselves are really simple. Most of them are very straightforward. You move in the right direction, fighting all enemies. Some have more complicated layouts, and every once in a while you won't be able to progress until you kill a certain amount of enemies. And some levels even have boss fights in them, but for the most part they feel almost exactly the same. Each of these levels vary wildly in terms of length. Some last less than 5 minutes, while others take almost 20, and going through them isn't hard at all. You can only use certain characters in certain levels, and most of the time you do get a choice, but even then there are only like 2 to 4 options. When you die with one character, you instantly switch to the next one. If you run out of lives, you have to continue, but you start at the beginning of the room you were in, so this isn't much of a punishment. You can find these sheets of paper both in here and in the other modes, which are your stickers. In between levels, you can add these to your character to give them stat boosts or make them have an item by default. Thing is, they don't make much of a noticeable difference and they can only be applied to one character. If you remove them to add another, they disappear for good, so they're a decent idea but don't really matter that much. This mode is pretty fun to go through, but sadly it's also kind of bland. Some of the stages clearly take place in the worlds of Nintendo games like Mario, Kid Icarus, and Ice Climber, but others are just generic video game levels. Same goes for the enemies. You'll fight some you recognize, but most are just random monsters. This isn't a massive issue, but part of the fun of Smash is seeing all these franchises be represented, and here we only really get that in the cutscenes. So there's not much else to do here other than go over the story.
Oh, hang on one second. I'm getting a message from the future about what will happen when I've already finished the mode. What was that? Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah, I would call this game a story mode if it wasn't for the fact that there is no story. I mean, there kinda is, since most of the cutscenes and stages do connect with each other, but there isn't really much of a narrative going on. I do like the little introductions that each of the characters get, though. Things just kinda happen, so bear with me if this sounds kinda vague, but I swear this is what the game gives me to work with. Okay, so, it opens in mid-air stadium where Zelda and Peach watch a fight between Mario and Kirby. This is also being viewed by Pit when suddenly Meta Knight's ship called the Halberd flies in and drops these robot guys. They fight them off, and this guy called the Ancient Minister attacks them with Petey Piranha from Mario, the first boss. You just need to hit the cages. Wario then shows up and shoots Zelda with this gun, turning her into a trophy. This bomb goes off, sucking the stadium into a black hole, forcing Kirby and Peach to flee. In Skyworld, Pit sees this and goes to help. After finding some enemies, he finds Mario, and the two chase the Halberd. Sea of Clouds, Kirby and Peach ride on the Warp Star when they're attacked by the Halberd. After running along it, this R-Wing crashes into them, and they go flying and have to go through another cloud stage. In the jungle, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong are protecting their bananas when, after some level, Bowser shows up and turns Donkey into a trophy. The plane just has Mario and Pit go through a grass level and see the Ancient Minister. At the lake, Diddy is attacked by Rayquaza from Pokemon, but is saved by Fox. Boss fight, it just flies around and shoots you. Fox tries to leave, but Diddy drags him along through a small level. They find this Bowser trophy, which turns out to be a trap, and they run away. In the ruined zoo, we see Lucas attacked by this giant statue of Porky from Earthbound, and you just have to run away from it. He's saved by Ness, and you fight the real Porky, who just moves back and forth. Wario turns Ness into a trophy, and Lucas runs away where he finds Pokemon Trainer, who only has Squirtle. They go through the zoo, and Lucas is determined to save Ness. The Battlefield Fortress. Marth witnesses one of those bombs get set off, so he goes to investigate when he sees Meta Knight. They fight some enemies, find Ike, and chase down the ancient minister who gets away. Elsewhere, Luigi is captured by King Dedede, who then steals Wario's bounty. In the forest, Link gets the Master Sword, and he and Yoshi are attacked by monsters. They kill them and chase after the halberd. The research facility, Zero Suit Samus infiltrates it and finds Pikachu being used as a power source. She saves him, and the two go through these doors and elevators. In the end, they find this room which shows Samus's power suit. The Lakeshore, Peach is captured by Bowser, who makes a dark clone of her that Link and Yoshi fight. Mario and Pit see this and get the wrong idea, leading to a scuffle. Mario and Pit are turned into trophies, and King Dedede swoops in, but Kirby manages to save them, and all five join together. We'll call this Team A. They chase after Dedede, leading to this castle, and we see Ganondorf was watching over the other villains.
I know I'm kind of glossing over the actual levels, but there really isn't that much to say about them. You fight some enemies, solve some puzzles, do some platforming, and that's really about it.
The path to the ruins. Lucas and Pokemon Trainer see Charizard flying and go to get him. At the entrance of the ruins, they have a fight with Wario. We then see Dedede put these coins on Luigi, Zelda, and Ness, but Bowser shows up and steals Zelda. The cave. Team A finds a hole in the castle ruins, and in the end find Bowser running off with Zelda. He escapes, but leaves behind the Dedede coin. Then the ancient minister sets off another black hole bomb, and Ganondorf receives orders from Master Hand. The ruins. Lucas and Pokemon Trainer descend down, where they find both Ivysaur and Charizard, allowing Pokemon Trainer to catch them. The wilds. Marth, Ike, and Meta Knight chase after this thing. It turns out to be a boss fight named Gallium. He jumps, punches, and drives forward. After beating him, he falls into the ruined hall, so now Lucas and Pokemon Trainer have to fight him, and it's the same as last time. They go flying outside, Lucas gets them away before he explodes, and Meta Knight saves them. We'll call this Team B. Back to the wilds, and Team A chases down the ancient minister. After running through the desert, another bomb goes off, and they flee. The swamp. We go back to Fox and Diddy Kong. After some level, Bowser turns Diddy into a trophy and makes a giant clone of him, but Falco swoops in to help. Kill the giant Diddy, and the real one convinces Falco to come with them. They leave the swamp and see Donkey being hauled away, so they fly after him. Back to the research facility, where Samus and Pikachu continue fighting robots and manage to find the power suit. After killing some clones, Samus returns. In the end, they're attacked by Ridley, who's pathetic. He just swoops down at you. Outside the ancient ruins, Olimar is attacked by a robot, but he's saved by Captain Falcon at the cost of his minions. They end up finding Diddy, who frees Donkey Kong, and Fox and Falco leave while they enter this cave. We'll call this Team C. The Glacial Peak. Team B witnesses the clash between Star Fox and Halberd, so Meta Knight climbs a mountain where he finds the ice climbers. At the top, they find Lucario, who has an honor battle with Meta Knight. The Halberd crashes into the mountain, and they hop on while the ice climbers fall down. In the canyon, they're found by the rest of Team B, who's attacked, so Team A swoops in to save them. After a small gauntlet, we cut to the battleship Halberd interior, where Snake was revealed to be hiding. He travels through the ship alongside Meta Knight and Lucario, and they find Peach and Zelda imprisoned. Fight clones of them, and they're saved, but instantly left behind. Heroes of the year, everybody. Battleship Halberd exterior. Zelda disguises herself as Sheik and goes along the outside of the ship with Peach. At the end, Fox is shot down and clashes with Sheik, but Peach gives them some tea. Battleship Halberd bridge. Meta Knight, Snake, and Lucario throw a bunch of Mr. Game & Watch clones towards the others, causing them to merge into Duon. They join them along with Falco, and Duon just swipes and shoots missiles that hurt him. They save Mr. Game & Watch, and Meta Knight takes back the Halberd. The Subspace Bomb Factory. Pikachu and Samus try to escape before the place explodes and find the ancient minister. The Bomb Factory again. Team C breaks in and goes through, eventually finding them. Ganondorf turns the robots on the ancient master, who is revealed to be none other than Rob. Everyone fights off the enemies and goes to escape, but on the way out, Meta Ridley attacks the ship. He just kinda flies around slamming into you. Entrance to Subspace. Everyone comes together and boards the Halberd to engage with Ganondorf and Bowser. Both ships are destroyed, and the team heads into the portal. They fight their way through Subspace, and we see Master Hand is being controlled by this guy named Tabu. He attacks Ganondorf and turns everyone into trophies. Subspace. Those Dedede coins manage to turn both Ness and Luigi back to normal, so they release Dedede and head to save everyone. This level is like the last one, but you want to grab everyone's trophies so you can add them to your party later. After a fight with Bowser, we head further into Subspace, where Kirby is freed thanks to the coin he found earlier. He rounds up everyone else, and we reach the final level, the Great Maze. You have to go through this ridiculously long mesh of rooms and fight every single character and boss fight you've seen so far. This seriously took me 2 hours to go through. Once you beat them all, you go to the center where you find Tabu, and Sonic shows up for some reason. Tabu flies, teleports, shoots you, slashes, and a bunch of other simple attacks. You get 6 characters, and if you're smart enough, you should be fine. Tabu is destroyed, everything is reset, and then it just ends, with the actual credits.
What was that?
After beating it, you can find secret doors that let you unlock Jigglypuff, Toon Link, and Wolf, and that's it for the Subspace Emissary. Now for the extra stuff, Melee had a bunch of collectibles you can find, and Brawl somehow has even more. I already mentioned the stickers, but you can also find CDs, which unlock new pieces of music to listen to. And of course we have the trophies returning, which act the same as before. All of these and more can be viewed in the vault. This is a way to look at your trophies and stickers, plus you can even get more trophies like last time, only instead of a lottery system, we have Coin Launcher, where you use your coins as ammo to shoot the trophies and any hazards that get in your way. We also have masterpieces, which are bite-sized demos of other Nintendo Nintendo games, and when I say bite-sized, I mean it because they only last 2 minutes at most. And probably the coolest yet most underwhelming of them all, Stage Builder. Yes, you can now make your very own Super Smash Bros. Stage, only your options are very limited. Everything is set on a grid, and you don't have that many objects and hazards. It's a cool idea, but you're probably not going to get much use out of it. The only other modes we have are Multi-Man Brawl, which is just Multi-Man Melee again, All-Star Mode, which works the same as last time, and Boss Battles, which is the same thing, only you fight all of the bosses from Subspace, plus Master Hand and Crazy Hand. And this was the first game to add challenges, which are little achievements you can unlock.
And that's about it for single player, so now it's time we move into the multiplayer. And you know what that means. You guys ready?
Yep.
Let's do this. Wait, where's Vanessa? Dear beloved customer, we are disappointed to announce that the Smash Bros. Agency has officially gone under, and as such, we will not be able to assist you anymore. Best regards, Vanessa Toll. Great, now what do we do? Please!
Alright, fine.
As you'd expect, multiplayer is the most important part of this game. And of course, this is where many people agree the game falls flat when compared to Melee. This game is a lot, and I mean a lot, slower than the last one was. You still get some of the chaotic, crazy action you'd expect from the series, but it's not even close to how fast it was last time. Since Brawl was made for the Wii, it was designed to be more accessible and beginner-friendly to newcomers, so they toned it down from how ridiculous Melee got. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but most of the fun people had with Melee was because of how fast it was, so this game being a lot slower means it's less intense. Also, because this game wasn't on such a severe time crunch, they ironed out a lot more stuff, so there aren't as many exploits you can use as last time. Melee was filled with all kinds of crazy maneuvers you can pull off, but Brawl is a lot more straightforward, so it's a bit easier for people to get better at. Now, personally speaking, I don't mind this change, but this really pissed off a lot of people since Melee is considered the ultimate competitive game. So making Brawl less fast makes things less competitive, and to some, less fun. But I don't think this makes the game bad. I do think you can have a bit more fun with Melee, but playing Brawl is still a great time. That is, except for the worst addition to this game, tripping. Your character can just randomly trip at any given time, and let me tell ya, that sucks.
I'd like to see you go through an entire fight without tripping.
Well, you want to fight me to prove me wrong? That's what I thought.
Certainly not helping the fact is that Meta Knight in this game is without a doubt the most broken character in Super Smash Bros. History. He's fast, strong, has insane recovery, and 4 jumps plus his up special. He's so overpowered that even the worst of Smash players can win with him.
Hey!
Now let's actually talk about the stages. For the first time ever, we not only have at least 1 stage per character franchise, except Rob, but he's kind of his own thing, we even have stages from games that don't have characters. You start out with 29 stages, and 21 of them are brand new. Delfino Plaza and Mushroomy Kingdom from Mario, plus Mario Circuit from Mario Kart, which is really neat, Yoshi's Island from Yoshi, Rumble Falls from Donkey Kong, Bridge of Eldin from Zelda, Norfair and Frigate Orpheon from Metroid, Halberd from Kirby, Lilac Cruise from Star Fox, Pokemon Stadium 2 from Pokemon, Port Town Arrow Drive from F-Zero, New Pork City from Mother, Summit from Ice Climber, Castle Siege from Fire Emblem, Sky World from Kid Icarus, WarioWare Inc. from Wario, Distant Planet from Pikmin, Shadow Moses Island from Metal Gear, Smashville from Animal Crossing, and PictoChat from that old DS application. For returning stages, we have Battlefield and Final Destination, which are series staples at this point, and for Melee, we have Rainbow Cruise, Yoshi's Island, Hyrule Temple, Brinstar, Corneria, and Onett. The unlockable stages require you to either unlock a corresponding character, beat a certain event match, or plays a certain character or stage enough times in versus matches. For characters, Flat Zone 2 from Game & Watch, you need to unlock Mr. Game & Watch, Green Hill Zone from Sonic requires Sonic, and Pirate Ship from Zelda requires Toon Link. The event matches unlock Mario Bros from Mario, Spear Pillar from Pokemon, and Hand and Bow from Electroplankton, which was this weird little sound DS game. And the versus matches ones are Luigi's Mansion from Mario, which requires you to use Luigi 3 times, 75mm from Donkey Kong, which is Donkey Kong 20 times, and possibly the worst stage in the entire series, and the returning Jungle Japes, which is any of the Melee stages 10 times, Big Blue needs Captain Falcon 10 times, Green Greens is Kirby 20 times, and Pokemon Stadium is Pokemon Stadium 2 20 times.
Well, that just seems excessive. Can you think of another way to unlock stages that's not paying for them?
If the new characters and general control didn't make the game less competitive, then the new items most certainly did. There's a decent amount of new ones, but there's only 3 that really matter. The first is the Dragoon from Kirby Air Ride. If you manage to grab all 3 pieces, you'll assemble this death ship and be able to blast into someone, which will almost always knock them out. It can be a little hard to aim, but if you get it right, it leads to some big damage. The second is the assist trophies, which let you summon a character to help you. There's a huge amount of different ones, and they all have a variety of abilities, abilities. It's basically an upgraded version of the Pokeball. Some just give you one quick move, some act as support, and some unleash devastating attacks. And it's one of the most fun ways to confirm a character can't be added into the game. But both of these pale in comparison to the Smash Ball. This thing will randomly appear and float around the stage. As soon as it does, it becomes a race to hit it as fast as possible. Whoever manages to break it can then hit the B button to unleash their final smash. A super attack that leads to some of the most broken abilities in the game. They can be a screen nuke, turning into a more powerful form, attacking nearby enemies that lead to a fun cutscene, or just be completely disappointing. But regardless, it is a thrill whenever this thing shows up, and it's so much fun to use. That is, unless you're on stage where everything slows down so you can barely move, or one player keeps getting it with the same character and spamming it over and over again to a ridiculous degree.
Can you please stop using Supersonic?
Hey, I can't help it if I'm a natural.
This is supposed to be a clean, fair fight.
Alright, fine. We'll all pick the same character.
Great, everyone is ice climbers and will play on the sides.
Wait, how did these guys work?
Like that.
Well, T, that just seems a bit rude. Alright, take that! Wait, why didn't you die?
You killed the female one. God, I love the patriarchy.
Screw the patriarchy!
Mom, I'm sorry.
Now, as for the characters, Ness is still my favorite, and I do really like Kirby and Ganondorf, but aside from the overpowered Meta Knight, my new favorites are probably Sonic, since his moveset is simple, but his speed is immaculate, almost like that's his thing, and I really got a lot of use out of King Dedede. I was not expecting to do as well as I did with him.
Why is that?
Well, does that face scream destruction to you?
I mean, kinda.
How could you possibly... Wait. Oh, now I see it.
And my favorite new stage is probably WarioWare Inc. Like in Melee, you can even tweak the rules a bit to make the matches more interesting. And if you really want to, there's even a setting that makes the match last a grand total of 1 second. Fine by me, makes unlocking the stages much easier. But what's really interesting is that for the first time ever in the history of Super Smash Bros, you can make the opponents in Smash mode CPUs, meaning you can actually have a fight against a random computer opponent without having to do the single player modes. I'm genuinely shocked it took them 3 games in order to add this feature, because it would have made the earlier games a bit more fulfilling single player wise.
Spoken like someone who has no life.
You know, I'm starting to regret inviting you.
Well, technically, you all invited me.
One of the most noteworthy things about Brawl is the fact that it was the first game in the series to allow for online multiplayer, but you can't use it anymore since the Wii's online service has been shut down for a decade. However, you can get the exact same experience by just taking the footage and turning it into a slideshow. Yeah, many Wii games had terrible online connectivity, and apparently Brawl was one of the worst examples of it. It stuttered, lagged, and froze like crazy. It was nearly impossible to get through a match without some issues, so maybe it's for the best that it's gone.
Well, that's a shame. I would love to experience what playing online was like.
Here. Try this.
Cool.
And if you want to switch things up, we also have tournament mode. This is just a fun way to set up local tournaments. You can have up to 32 total players, and since everyone takes turns, you only need 2 controllers total. So this can be a great way to set up events or just mess around with a large group of friends. Though I can't possibly imagine getting 32 people in one room at the same time just to play Smash.
You know, I actually tried that once, long ago back in the day.
Did you win?
No, I lost instantly, and I spent the rest of the night getting high and watching Three Stooges sketches to cope.
How was that?
Well, I thought Mo was Curly, Curly was Shaq, and who's the other one again?
Despite being a lot slower and less intense, playing Brawl in multiplayer is still a lot of fun. It may not be as insane as Melee, but it still has the chaotic and crazy energy that the series is known for. And since we have more variety for stages and characters, there's a lot more variables you can run into, which keeps the game feeling fresh. Melee might be a better experience, but that does not take away from the quality of this game. If you're looking for something that will satisfy you and your friends' desire to just beat the crap out of each other, well, you probably need some new friends, but this game will suffice.
Well, that's about everything for Brawl.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of disappointed.
Oh, don't tell me you're one of those.
Well, this is a discussion that I've been trying to avoid this whole time, so how about we just talk about something else?
Well, we could always share some fun stories from our past. Like, for instance, the time I went to the zoo with my friends. They told me that I couldn't fight the lion. And I just had to prove them wrong. I had to prove my own masculinity. So I ran up to the lion pit, and they're gone.
Super Smash Bros Brawl is a great game, but I do think I kind of prefer Melee since it was a bit more interesting and fun to play. Brawl definitely has some advantages in the single-player department, like you can use the right stick to do smash attacks and unlocking everything is a lot less tedious, but Classic Mode is a step down, and the Subspace Emissary, while cool, is a bit bland and kinda overstays its welcome. Either way, I'm glad I finally got to play this game, and I bet you'd have a great time with it too. And at first I did think it was kinda disappointing that Adventure Mode didn't have a real story to it. But then I remembered that Smash Brothers fanfiction was literally the longest written piece of English media for a while, so, yeah, maybe that's not such a bad thing.